All right. Does anyone know this man to the left of me up here? All right. So I had the honor to have dinner with him in a small group, and someone asked a sort of great question. I feel like I'm a EXP historian and know you well, Glenn, but you even said some stuff that I hadn't heard. So let's start there. How'd you get into real estate, and how did you think of EXP?
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for inviting me. It's been a while since I've been to Houston. One of the last times I was here actually was in 2008, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But I got into real estate in 2002. But before that, I was kind of a startup geek. I started about 17 failed businesses, and tried lots and lots of different things. I did work for AOL for a while, but it was a contract employee role. I was running their financial bulletin boards and chat rooms, and I'd been a stockbroker at one time before. But one of the things that was really interesting in that whole experience was I actually first became a stockbroker in 2007, right after or 1987, just after the crash that had taken place in October. And I had to smile and dial airline pilots list. That was my list. I'd basically do my script, and my goal was to make 100 phone calls a day, mail out 10 investment packages, and hopefully open up 2 accounts. And that was kind of the grind. And I burned out on that for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the company I was working for wasn't the most ethical. I didn't know it when I started at 21, but I learned within 6 months. So eventually I left being a stockbroker. But a number of years later, about 92, I actually was managing the financial bulletin boards and chat rooms. And at that point in time, people asked me how I knew so much about stocks. And I told them my experience. They said, if you ever open an account again, or if you ever become a stockbroker again, let us know. We'd love to open accounts. And so I did. And that was a really interesting comparison between 1987 and 1992, in that I was opening accounts left and right. And so I learned the power of the internet and online marketing and aggregating eyeballs and content is king and all this stuff that now is pretty much normal in terms of how we think about social media. So I was doing sort of that social media piece. But after that, I went and started an online service called Interactive Cafe. And just before the web came around, and got my butt kicked by the web. So I'd done that online service. Then I became a web developer, and then I started an online e-commerce logistics company in 1999 and got it funded right when we were going through a dot-com collapse. So you can see kind of a history here. I was messing up the timing quite a bit.
There was a few failures there.
Yeah, timing was not on my side, but I did learn a lot about peaks and valleys and different things about business. And in 2001, I was hosting a couple Chamber of Commerce websites, and those I took back over, and I was selling ads to different people. One of the people I sold an ad to was a local real estate agent, and he decided that I needed to get my real estate license. Might have noticed that I didn't say I decided I needed to get my real estate license. He decided that I needed to get my real estate license. I had worked on his website. He was tired of paying me $60 an hour, but he was also 62, and I started to generate some internet leads. And so he wanted me to get my license. So at that time, I basically said, I'll get my license, but I don't want to sit open houses. I don't want to wear a realtor pin at the grocery store. I don't want to talk to my friends and family. I'm kind of like with Lance there. I'm really not. I'm an introvert by nature, so people's not my strong suit. But I'll build this thing online, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. He said, fine. I'd hoped he'd say, no, that doesn't work, in which case I would have done something else, but no, he agreed to all of my terms. And about a month later, his name is Hugh, and he says, Glenn, how come you don't have your license? And I said, well, Hugh, I get paid $60 an hour to do website development work. So that's what I've been doing to pay my bills. He said, I'll pay you $60 an hour to study for your license. Go get your darn license. And he actually used more interesting French than that. So, but I went and got my license, and from then till the end of the year 2002, I ended up selling 17 properties, Rookie of the Year, all with internet leads. And then 2003, did about 7.3 million in production back when that was actually a lot of production, and then continued to crank that up over the next 3 years at Keller Williams. And so that was the company that was the most team friendly. Almost was really between Remax and Keller at the time, but went to Keller and built a large team. And actually, I was a glutton for punishment. I was like, why build one when you can build six? So I said 6 different websites around the country where I was ranked at the top of the search engines. And so by 2006, we did about 60 million in production, and then went independent. And so in that going independent, I ran a team-based real estate brokerage in multiple markets around the U.S. and had a great 2007. And then 2008, it was kind of interesting. This was going back to the 2008 piece. I was looking at a bunch of models that were out there. There was Exit, there was a few others, but there was one actually that was based initially out of the Woodlands, and it was called Connect Realty. And I saw the model, I go, that actually makes some sense. But there was some stuff that didn't make sense about that. But I went and jumped on a plane and flew up to the Woodlands and met with the guys that ran that, a couple of guys, David Boatner and Jim Canyon, and said, hey, I really like the basis of what you have, but I think I could help you actually improve it. And I actually laid out for them, ironically, the EXP business model. And so this is like not something most people know, and this is part of the new piece that you heard last night. But I actually laid out, I said, here's how I think it should be done. And it would make a lot more sense for me as an agent to want to be here if you made these tweaks to the model. And also, you should make me your CEO. And anyway, that didn't go over so well. And so when it didn't come together, that actually was part of the formation of EXP in 2000. This was actually right before the crash when I met with them. And in 2009, a number of us got together, and we already had sort of been thinking about a lot of this stuff and just said, hey, we need to do this model ourselves. Let's build a defensible business model that's not dependent on bricks and mortar. Let's put this together. Let's see if we can make this work. And so that's what we did in October of 2009. So we're just over 14 years in the business, but it was really based on this whole idea that I wanted to build the business that I would have literally hung my license at and been a lifer at. And at that point, there wasn't a model where I could truly say I would be a lifer in that model. And that's what I wanted to do, is build that model. So that was kind of my history into getting into the business. Obviously, we've grown a little bit since the 45 agents back in 2009. We've got now 89,000 plus agents. We're in 24 countries. And for me, it's fun to continue to build the real estate brokerage that literally, I think about this, not super seriously, but I think about if I got my license again, it'd be a lot of fun, being at EXP and building as a new agent. And for me, that is how do I make sure that it's got all the ingredients that would always intrigue me to want to hang my license there.
So is Hugh an EXP agent?
He has not moved his license from the day he got his license. So when I met him, Hugh, he'd been 11 years in the business, and that prior year, and going back to something a gentleman mentioned earlier about getting a mentor, he ended up being my mentor, but by himself the year before he sold 93 properties without an assistant. And so this guy he had his mantras. He was out where the houses and the people were. And
did you tell him about the Icon Award, or he's still not?
I told him about a bunch of stuff, but he's kind of risk averse. He was really loyal to the owner of the firm that he was with, and he's stayed that path. And a lot of one of the agents that started with him just after I did, she's now at EXP, and she's kind of blown away. Mindy Price, you might know her name, yeah. But
So I want to switch gears a little bit. I was trying to think of a question that sort of kept me up at night as an agent, and so the elephant in the room is what's going on in the commission lawsuits that started on Monday. I know EXP is not a part, one of the defendants named in that, but sort of what's your opinion on that? What are some possible outcomes that you could share with a lot of agents in the room?
Now, does everybody know that there's a lawsuit going on? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of, I've been scanning my Inman News, the play-by-play, so just to see what's going on. It could be, there could be some stuff. I mean, obviously you've seen a couple settlements already come out. Anywhere and Remax both have done some sort of settlement. In one of the cases, I'm not sure if it's the one that's going on or it's the other one that's currently tracking. But it is an interesting time we live in because fundamentally we may see a seismic shift in the real estate industry. I would say that if I'm, as a betting man, I would say there's about a 20% chance of a seismic shift. And 20% doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's 20% chance that it will affect 1.5 million people's livelihood in the United States. So in that case, it actually is a big deal. So it is really interesting to just see what's going on. Listening to some of the arguments and just not listening, but reading, it's interesting. These plaintiff counsels, I mean, they're sharp. These are some of the sharpest attorneys in the country, trying to change fundamentally real estate, and probably more reality is we're probably just looking for a large settlement so they can collect their 30 to 50%. But that being said, they're definitely shaking the tree. They're seeing who will change their quote unquote business practices, and then ultimately, what does this mean sort of on a nationwide basis? Because this is just one state, Missouri, that this is taking place in. So it's got potential ramifications. I think it's good that we've got Keller Williams and NAR are fighting this. I think that's extremely good. If everybody's settled, in my mind, that means that every state this would take place, and there'd be ripple effects, state to state to state to state, and it'd put most everyone out of business that's a party to this lawsuit. So that, in my mind, somebody's got to hold the line. So I'm really happy that Keller Williams decided to hold the line and that NAR held the line. And I'm also really happy that we didn't get named. So, because it could be very expensive.
So you said 20% a seismic shift. What do you think the other 80% likelihood is, and what would that look like? Yeah,
well, I think the reality of what we're already seeing is that NAR is decoupling the way compensation is articulated in the NAR rules, and we're having MLSs now stating things like there's not a required, buyer agency commission, et cetera. So that being said, then it does make room for new models, and whether those models get traction or not is an entirely different story. But the fact that you no longer have to do certain things does create opportunities for innovation. However, we've got 1.5 million, maybe less because of some of the numbers have been dropping off, but we still have 1.5 million realtors who have learned the business in a particular way and represent, 90% of all the buyers out there are represented by real estate professionals. If this model was going to fundamentally change, I think that companies like Redfin would have ultimately figured it out. But the reality is that the online lead gen style real estate brokerages there's not a financial interest for their agents to actually go and build a book of business. That's why Redfin's never really succeeded. Whereas agents who need to put food on the table, a roof over their head, and doing the lead gen side, that's actually the biggest power inside this industry. Those those 2, 3, 4 hours a day that you lead generate is something that the disruptors, the people who need the financial model of real estate to fundamentally change, they won't do. And so they have to figure out ways to kind of create a wedge between how we get paid as real estate professionals to create an opportunity for them to try to disrupt. So I think there's a whole bunch of money in the background that's trying to figure out how to change the way the business fundamentally works so that they can then get their foothold. This, in my mind, has nothing to do with consumer protection. It has more to do with the fact that they haven't figured out, in an industry that generates $60-70 billion a year in real estate commissions, how they can get their unfair share of that commission pie.
Stuff. So you think differently than most people. So I think you're going to give some different advice. But we have a lot of different realtors at different phases in their lives, their career. So we have new agents in the room, and then we have a number of big team leaders that have grown big teams. I mean, Cole Watkins has 40 agents on his team. So give them a piece of advice for the new agents starting their business and how they get their business off the ground. And then how do you give advice for someone like Cole that's growing and scaling a big team?
Yeah, so two different types of advice for sure. One, I think that getting into real estate when the market is tough is the best time to get in real estate. I think it's tougher to get into real estate when things are going well and then things go against you because you haven't sort of built the muscle memory around what it takes to be a true professional realtor. So to some extent, it'll be rougher for those who got in the business in 2020 than it will be for those that got in the business in 2023. But the first thing is to find a good mentor or find a good team. If you're a new agent, get around people who are doing lots of business. And that normally means somebody who has a vested interest in seeing you succeed. And so that's where teams and mentorship type relationships can really be powerful catalysts to helping you be successful. I was fortunate to have my mentor for 2 years in the business. And if it wasn't for his work ethic and seeing him produce at a high level, I doubt I would have got to this level of success that I've got to personally, because he showed me a work ethic that I hadn't been fundamentally raised with. And so retooling what it truly meant to go out there and make a living and put deals together and serve clients at a high level, that was something I got from that. So I'd say first, and foremost is make sure that you truly are plugging in somewhere and getting mentored and or being on a highly productive team, because they do provide accountability and training. It's almost like boot camp. It's going into the military, which I didn't serve, but certainly respect everybody who has. But that's a retraining of your just internal who you are as a human being. And being on a team has some of those same traits. It retools you as who you are as a human being. So if you're a new agent, and it's a bit mixed too, because me, when I was a team leader, I didn't like to have brand new agents. I like to have agents who had been in the business 6 months to 2 years. And the reason why I had that sweet spot was because as a brand new agent, they thought that business was easier than it actually was. But if they'd been in the business 6 months to 2 years, they actually liked being on the team and respected what we actually brought to the table for them. And so for me, that was my sweet spot. For highly productive teams, we're going into some challenging markets. So if you're running a team, you do have to figure out what expenses you can cut. Hopefully it doesn't come from your marketing budget, but I've operated now for 14 years, running now the largest single real estate brokerage in the country, and we have no physical office. And part of it was because in 2009 we couldn't afford offices, but you can use this as an opportunity to figure out, can we work in a different way? A lot of people that run teams run with physical bricks and mortar footprints. And I do see the P&Ls of a lot of teams, and a lot of big teams are losing money right now in this market, and their single biggest expense of running their team is their physical footprint. So one of the things I would look at is, are there ways, and for some people it won't work. We're seeing this play out in the news. Companies are wanting to bring their people back to the office, and they want people to be, together. And so there's a certain persona of leader, CEO of your real estate team, where you just fundamentally are wired for having people in close proximity to you. But there's others that are going to be more tech forward. Obviously, Justin's got 4,500 people who work remote for him in the Philippines. But there's other people who are wired around the idea that we can create networked connections between all the people on our teams and in our communities. Now, we do this obviously when we think about running our business. All of our clients nowadays most of them are coming from our social connections, whether we knew them before or not. Just the fact that we're staying in touch with them on social and they're seeing what we're up to, it reminds them we're in the business. So we're doing this already in that capacity, but I think we need to figure out, can we do that? And is there an analog for that for running our own individual businesses? Because if you can do that, then you can actually scale in a different way than you scaled previously. So everybody, a lot of people have read the Red Book. How many read the Red Book? The Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Okay, so in that, it's got all the models and systems and all of that, and it's great because it gives you something to work with when you run your team. But when that book was written, we didn't have all the tools that we have available to us. So I think the idea is, how do we embrace the tools that we have available to us to run a different business relative to the economic model of the business?
So I got to hear some things that EXP and you're working on. Can you share some of those things that you're allowed to share with the EXP community? Because there's a lot of agents here. And tell us where the company's going in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. So one of the platforms we announced back in May at our shareholder summit was a platform called My Link, My Lead. And this is a really interesting platform because it will allow you to, quote unquote, promote the company website, which is EXP Realty, and with effectively what's called an affiliate link. So we're now patent pending on this technology for the real estate industry. But it effectively creates an affiliate style link with EXP Realty, where obviously if you promote your own website, any of those leads come back to you. However, you're limited based on the market area that you currently have a license in. So if you have a license in the greater Houston area, you're going to be able to show Houston listings, but you're not going to be able to show listings in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and or other places maybe that your clients might have an interest in. With the affiliate style link, you still get the leads in your local market, the market where you actually practice real estate. But it's pretty cool because the leads that are outside of your local marketplace that you work in, those actually go into our realtor department. They'll actually find an agent to work those leads, and when those close, they'll just send you a check. So I'm really I'm an internet marketer. So for me, I'm like going, when this starts to actually get traction, it's not getting traction yet, but when it starts getting traction and some agents start to actually understand the power of this, I think there will be sort of almost fundamentally different businesses sort of set up with that. We're certainly diving heavy into AI. So we've launched Luna. You can find it on Workplace if you're with EXP, and actually just search for that in the chat, and you can actually start to ask questions, and we're training it up, and it's getting better and better. I think we're in the process of connecting Luna with Jasper, so it'll actually start to do marketing copy and do some of the things that you might have a separate Jasper account for, or if you don't have one, you can actually start to get some of the same types of content out of Luna for that. So we're training it up. We're we're doing a lot of stuff with AI that I can't talk about yet. That's pretty exciting, but some of it would be, how do we get things through faster from a contract perspective, pre-writing your contracts so that they're actually sort of a valid contract, and doing it with AI so you're not spending as much time typing in the information. So those are some things that we're working on. There was, they're honking at me.
They want to hear what you're working on.
Yeah. So we've got I had one that's really interesting that I was just thinking about and I just forgot about. So anyway, I'm having a 57-year-old moment. So
I know we probably have a ton of questions from the crowd, so I'm going to leave the last 10 minutes for you guys to ask Glenn some questions. So we have some mic runners. So if you want to ask Glenn a question, raise your hand, and one of the mic runners will bring it over to you. I think we have one this way. Oh, Frank Gray.
All right. Glenn, that's a short question. Why EXP? Among all the brand and other brokerage options that agents have, why should they move toward EXP?
Well, so I think about the idea the real estate industry has, I don't know how many different brands and sub-brands and franchises and independents. The one thing is that I think about, somewhere around 20% of agents, maybe 25 or something like that, I believe the cloud-based model that EXP designed makes a ton of sense for. I think there's other brokerages that are going to exist for other reasons, but I think for those that are looking for sort of tech forward, creating opportunities for, the big one, retirement. If I made a joke a couple weeks ago from stage at EXPCon that this is not a business that agents typically retire from. They typically just die because there's no retirement plan. And my further on joke, and then somebody actually told me they actually saw somebody that is the only business where somebody actually will sell real estate using a walker. And so it's like, and so for me.
Sounds like my dad.
I
Just kidding, Dad. I had to throw one insult in there.
one zinger in there. But for me, when I got into the business, I recognized that I didn't have a business. I'd been raised by a number of mentors in business, and so I recognized what a business to a business owner should ultimately be. And when I saw it was missing, and this is missing at pretty much all of the different levels of real estate. So individual agent, running a team, and to some extent even running a brokerage. None of those are fundamentally super. They're just not designed well, and that has to do with two things. One, there are good business operators, so don't get me wrong, but the average person won't succeed, generally speaking, at a high level because of the way it's designed. And so for us, what we want to do is we wanted to design a system where an average agent could produce an above average result and actually over time build up a retirement and build up additional income streams into their business.
Hi, thank you for being here today. I'm Rena Cami. I'm one of the managing brokers on the Texas team. One of the things that I love about what I do, I love the company, number one, and your vision. I'm a big fan, and we love what we do every day. I call it, coming to my kitchen table when they come and they pull a ticket and they talk to a broker. It is the most powerful thing that you could have ever offered for agents, to be able to actually have access to a broker every day. When are we moving to World 2.0? I'm so excited about it. And I would love the ability for agents to be able to get on from their mobile and be able to connect with us even more. So.
Yeah, great question. So thank you for helping manage all this. At the end of the day, it's the glue is in all the people behind the scenes that makes it easy for agents to do their job. And it's the thing that I've recognized over time that without that, you don't really have a business. Now we're going to go to really we'll call it World 2.0, but Frame VR. We're going to be going to that starting in 2024, and that's actually you can get there on your mobile Safari browser. So it's actually a mobile friendly platform. So between that and obviously Workplace, super connected, and there's a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe with that as well. So we've got a soft cutover date of January 1. We'll see, how but that'll be the beginning of everything switching over.
Awesome.
Thank you. Jonathan Patrick with Frontier Realty. I just got one quick question in regards to My Lead. Is there any place online that we can go to do a little bit more research on?
Yeah, mylead.com.
Thank you.
I love questions with one answer.
Hi, I'm right here. I'm Smita Singh. You're a brilliant leader, and we all know that. I want to know, you're an introvert as well. What is your secret sauce? And what is your advice for the leaders that are in the room or leaders that are in the making?
So I was thinking about this earlier today for different reasons, not because I was going to hear, but we had a gentleman pass inside of EXP recently, Rick Jiha.
Rick Jiha, he was amazing.
Yeah, and the thought that I was thinking about this morning was he was really big on personal development. He and I first met him actually when I was going through a personal development program called Sci Seminars. And so he was there at one of the graduation events in there. And then I learned that he's taken it 16 times. And I mention that because future leaders need to work on themselves first. It's a leader of self before it becomes a leader of others. And it's a personal development journey, but it's work on yourself and then play a big game. And so that was the phrase I was thinking about today is Rick Jiha worked on himself and he played a big game. And I think that's the idea of being a leader is, and you don't have to be a leader of a big organization or any of that, but you need to stand out in the minds of the people that you're trying to influence, which does mean playing a bigger game than maybe you feel you should play. So it's taking a risk, it's being vulnerable, but it's also continually working on yourself. Nobody's perfect. Nobody ever will be. There's one guy that was rumored to be perfect, so it's a continual process, and part of being a great leader, in my mind, is play a big game and also be vulnerable.
Thank you.
Brandon.
All right, I'm going to ask a very challenging question. So, especially in the state of Texas, you have so many different brokerages. When someone gets licensed and they can choose all kinds of different brokerages. Now, we've been at EXP for 3 years. We were at a different company before. But my question to you, a lot of people come up and say, well, do you guys actually sell real estate? Do you only, I hear a lot, well, you guys only just bring people and have them join and it's a giant pyramid. My question to you is, does EXP actually sell real estate?
Oh,
that was a cynical question.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah, so I'm on so Bob Hale and I will message back and forth quite a bit. He's a very, very friendly gentleman, and I consider him a friend. But he would go, EXP is number 3 in Houston. EXP's number 2 in Houston. EXP's number 1 in agent count as a single brokerage. EXP. So now he's quit messaging me because we're kind of dominant on all the stats, selling listings, selling the whole average as a single brokerage. I'm sure there's some brands that if you combined all their offices that are franchises, they'd sell more, but as a single brokerage. But last year we were on something close to 7% of all real estate transactions in the U.S. had an EXP agent on one side or the other. And we represent about 4.7% of the industry in terms of realtors. And productivity per realtor, if you looked at some of Mike Del Preti's stats, we're actually now one of the most productive per agent brokerages in the U.S. So yeah, we sell a lot of real estate. I mean, it's 400,000 homes a year, and obviously with the current market is a little bit flat this year, but once the market turns around, those numbers go up. But we're outperforming the market in terms of all the various different stats. So even though the market's having a challenge, we're not having as big a challenge because we keep on selling more real estate. And
what is the stat? 87% of EXP agents don't recruit. Is that still the number?
Well, it's not. I mean, it's 87% of our agents, and part of it's just the way a network marketing style tree works out. A certain percentage aren't going to have people underneath them yet. But if you look at it, about 30% of our agents actually focus on doing some sort of agent attraction. 70% of them are almost exclusively just listing and selling homes. So it's pretty skewed toward the listing and selling side. And part of it's because we keep on adding things into the mix that makes this just a darn good brokerage to hang your license at. So we're the single largest real estate brokerage in the U.S. We now have our EXP exclusive listings platform, which we're in the process of rolling out, and so that's a pretty powerful platform. And if you think about what potentially could happen with this commission lawsuit, it actually makes it kind of one of the more exciting things to have in our arsenal, because we'll actually be able to do internal sharing of stuff if for some reason we can't do external sharing through MLS or what have you. So there's some really cool stuff we're doing there. We've got some of the biggest lead generation companies are now sending us a disproportionate share of their lead flow, because we've actually built out a really robust platform for them to actually get their leads into our ecosystem for agents that are looking for leads. And so we just keep on doing that. We bought a company called Zoocasa last year, which is rolling out a national portal, it's got light branding for EXP, but it's a national portal. So we're really excited about that. We formed a partnership with Realty.com earlier this year, and that's been good. So we keep on adding things in the ecosystem, so agents don't fundamentally need to be here just for the retirement benefits. They can be here just to list and sell real estate and do a great business. So I think fundamentally you want to do both, because when I was an active agent, there were days when I really did not want to be an agent. There were a lot of days where I actually didn't want to be an agent and dealing with the stress of actually dealing with the transaction. I wanted to figure out, how could I build a path out of this over time? And I think anybody who produces a high level will have those days, and that's where the EXP model comes in.
All right. Well, let's give Glenn a hand. We're out of time. So we want to thank everyone for coming and showing up. This is one of the best events we've done, standing room only. So thanks, everyone. If y'all have questions, I know Glenn is going to stick around if we didn't get you all. So thank y'all.